Welcome to our first Open Dialogue session for 2024. And thank you for joining us. And now those who are not familiar with the format in which we try and keep these Open Dialogue sessions, we really want to make it as informal as possible. So for both my colleagues and clients and anybody listening in, please stop me at any point in time. There where you've got a question, add your chats. There where you need me to clarify something. The idea is for us to actually interact and not to have one person presenting on a specific topic. So I urge you to please raise your hand or just unmute yourself. You don't have to wait until I provide you with an opportunity. You also don't have to wait until the end. Today's topic is a little bit different than what we typically work with in these Open Dialogue sessions. And today we thought of taking this opportunity and just orientating some of you to some of the report changes that can be expected on the EQI little later this year. So this is also the first session that we are, open session that we're hosting on some of the changes that can be expected. So please don't see this as the only session. There will be a lot of communication that will be coming your way as well. I need to, however, start with this session just to provide you guys with a little bit of background as to why you are going to see these changes coming through. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the EQI, I mean, this is also the topic for today. MHS is the owner of the EQI. Now, they've gone through 2023, they've gone through a very rigorous process to ensure that they actually get their ISO 27001 accreditation. Now, this is a massive achievement. When I started reading up and asking about, how do you actually go through it, everybody just said to me that this is one of the most difficult accreditations to get. If you are not 100% familiar with what is meant by this, in short, it captures the absolute best standards internationally for information security and management. So if you're accredited, ISO 27001 accredited, then you know that this company did everything in their power to ensure data security to its absolute fullest extent. So this is something that we're very proud of. But you can also imagine with this absolute rigorous process that they've gone through, all of their IT platforms, integrations were audited, and one area in which it was recommended for them to look into and to update would be how they integrate with other platforms. So this is also then how we as JVR integrate with MHS on their TAP platform. Now, they decided, due to the feedback received, due to them receiving their accreditation already, that it would not be a bad thing to ensure that they address this area. It wasn't weak. There was nothing wrong with it. It is just something that was recommended. It's something that they can improve on. Hence the reason why they then decided to rebuild their API. Now, I'm not a technical person. I am not somebody that can answer all of these questions. But what I see when somebody says this to me is that the way in which we plug into their platform is what they needed to, then what they are, and that what they've already done and what they've already rebuilt. And we are now in the process of reconnecting with them. And as soon as that's been tested, checked, QA'd, done, and making sure that everything works 100%, these are the report changes that you will then expect. So the report changes on the EQI is not due to us or them deciding. There's somebody that's
Sorry, Jan, I just want to say everyone must just mute themselves when they join. You're unmuted when you join the meeting.
Can you maybe, Andrea, on your end, try and mute people who may have been muted? Thank you. That's better. So what I was saying is that the drive behind the EQ report changes that we will be presenting here today was not due to us wanting to put a new jacket on the EQI 2.0. It was us updating the back end, us and MHS, in partnership or in combination, updating the back end of the EQI to ensure absolute full security, data security, and risk compliance, which then resulted in certain things needing to be rebuilt. And the idea behind the changes are to replicate what we know the current EQ to be in the new API. So please understand the reason behind why there are changes to be expected on JVR Online. In saying so as well, I do also want to say we did take this opportunity and made some updates. So you will see in general now we've had new norms added to, we'll have new norms added to the version that you can access off of JVR Online. You know that we've had a new manual published at the end of last year, which was also submitted, reviewed, and approved by the ASSA. For those of you who would be interested, there will be new languages available. So there are additions due to this update, but there's absolute no changes to the structure of how the EQI 2.0 works in terms of the measurement. There's no item changes. There were no intention to change interpretive text. There were no intention to change any design, except for that what the backend then asked us or asked MHS to do. But there were no changes to the actual measurement or the product itself. So what we will be taking you through today is the report changes that you may see due to the new way in which we interact with the MHS platform. On that Benazir, I just want to double check. Do we have any questions? As I mentioned in the beginning as well, welcome to interrupt me at any point and ask me if there's anything that you want more clarity on. Okay. On that note, let's start with the slides and taking you through all the changes that can be expected. We will have more of these sessions, and we will make sure that all of you have this information and slides available to you as well, so that you can reflect and get back or return to what these changes are. This is just the compliance certificate that we're very proud of. Again, as I said, the ISO 27001 accreditation is really not every company or any industry that would actually get this accreditation. And you can imagine that it then ensures 100% alignment with something like the GDPR as well, which is amazing and good for you to know as a user of the EQI as well. Let's get into it. So looking at the front pages of the workplace report, there are slight changes on the workplace report, the client and coach, the leadership report, client and coach. You will see that there's a little bit of a design change on the right-hand side. You've got your new report that you can expect, with the biggest change I would imagine noteworthy to say here would be that the old report allowed a test administrator to upload a logo, which will not be a functionality that will be available in phase 1 of the new API integration. So it will possibly be something that we will look into further down the line, but for the first phase of this integration, a logo or a client logo would not be available. The rest of what you look at here is just the removal of a border and 1 or 2 font changes. So you'll see all the reports will have slightly bigger fonts, cleaner design, and clearer text that was used. As I mentioned already, left-hand old report or the current report being used Right hand is the new report. And remember, it's not live yet, so please don't expect to see any of these changes in the next week or two. We don't have a final date set in stone yet. It is something that we actively are working on to ensure that we are 100% ready with the integration and that there's no failures in process or no glitches. But in saying so, I cannot commit to when you can expect these changes. We just thought of it, being a good opportunity to start engaging clients on what they can expect. So right-hand side, new report. I would think that the only change, so no structure changes, no model changes, no interpretive text changes. The only thing that I think would be worth mentioning here might be that there is a name in the header of the client being, so we had client name at the top, which is still the case. I think age was removed, especially in your next page. You'll see that there's a slight design changes here. Again, model remained exactly the same. The only thing that I think is worth mentioning here, we rarely saw clients using it. However, there might be some of you that did, would be the removal of some clients had, or there was an option where you could remove the scores, so the percentile scores that this candidate got. And also those labels that refers to low range, mid-range, high range, which has got a 70, a 90, 100, 110, 130. Those labels there was an option where people could actually switch it on and off. Now we had, I want to say 99% of our clients just had it on always. However, that is also now going to remain the option. So it will always be on. You would not be able to remove percentile scores if at this point in time in the new report. Then what we have with regards to new and old report, so again, labels will always be on. Again, if I say labels, I mean the score that the person got on self-regard, for example. So their percentile score will always be on, and the labels that refers to low range, mid-range, and high range will always be on. It's not something that can be switched off. One other change that you can also expect would be we are not making use of the client name anymore in the new report. So it's going to read, instead in the old report, we had something like, John, your result suggested ABC. Now it will only read, your result suggests. So it will be the removal of using the name in the text itself. And then what is a little bit of a change for your client report. So please note that this is the client report that we're working on, is at the bottom of the current report. You've got that balancing your EI section. That specific section has been removed from the client report and is now only available in the coaches report. One important thing to note here is that except for the logo functionality on the front page, none of the information that you're used to getting is lost or completely removed. Duplication is, however, something that has been trying to minimized to the fullest in certain pieces of information not being duplicated in multiple places in the report or in the client coach report. So that balancing EI area in your client report is now currently only in your coaches report. Then that static little intro that you have there on your old report is how to use this page. And now on the right hand side, there's a little bit of changes to the text, just simplifying it to the new one being more simple, cleaner, clearer how to use this page. So a little bit of text interpretation, static text interpretation changes there, but no changes were made to the interpretive text on the four dichotomies, the self-regard, the independence, optimism, and the self-actualization, the interpersonal relationships, not independence, sorry. So slight changes to the happiness introduction sentence, but again, no changes to how it's being scored, no changes to the interpretation of the constructs, no changes to the items that's already mentioned. So it's just trying to clean up the text that was used here and there where there were a lot of words used. And then one other change that I think is worth noting is that all the pages in the current report that is static, so the action plan page together with the development commitment page are now seen as additional PDFs that can be emailed to the client or can be used when and where. It doesn't have any additional costs associated to it. It's just removed from the report that's being generated and saved as a separate PDF that can be used when pleased. I personally prefer it that way. That means the report itself doesn't have a number of pages that you may not always want or you make use of. So it's less printing, it's a smaller file. There's a lot of advantages because sometimes you use it and sometimes you don't. And these additional sections in the report, so the back end of the report, are now seen as separate PDFs that can be used at any point in time. So you don't have to download it, you don't have to pay for it, you don't have to, it will be something that you save on your end and use it when you feel like using it. So these were the basic changes to the client report, the workplace client report. Before I go into the workplace coach report, I just want to double check with everybody. Do you have any questions or concerns? Please add it to the chat. I do see I've got about 4 chats which I've not been able to engage with yet, but if there's any questions, please stop me at any point in time. Let's quickly run through the coach report. We've got similar to the client report, so you would have seen exactly to the same. What we had with the client report was removal of the logo for now. I don't want to say that it's going to be for always, but it is for now with the new integration as phase 1. Cleaner design without the border, clearer text being used, very similar to what we've already discussed. Now with the old report, there's 1 or 2 changes here which I do want to highlight to you. With the old report, that little flag that sometimes came or were presented in a report that said that you need to look at further investigation with regards to the validity of the specific profile. That little flag is now not either being turned on or off anymore. That little flag is now always on as a warning to say, please look at this. Please, if you find this little flag in your profile, investigate this little flag further. So instead of it not being there and then being there, that little warning sign, red warning sign, will always say, please look out for flags. Now then, on your old report, you would have sometimes have the red little warning and other times not. Your new report always have that little warning, and then you need to look into, so where are those flags? So after reading the warning. So just reading the warning doesn't mean that there is a flag. You need to only look at where the flags are. So completion time, for example, in the example that I have in front of you, has a little flag, and inconsistency, the inconsistency index, for example, has a little flag. So it might have been an example where the warning line is there, but there were no flags in this introduction, in this validity check profile or the report, which then meant that there was nothing to be flagged. However, the warning will still be there. So please just hear what I'm trying to say. That warning is now static. But in saying so, that is the one change that can be expected here. The other change that that can be expected here is that we now removed the name of the individual in the text as well. So the client, so remember this is the coach's report, so it will be referring to the respondent or to your client, but it will not be talking about Yanni's profile, Yanni. It's going to refer to the respondent. Then another little change that you will see would be the inconsistency index. So in the current report, it already highlights to you in this page where the inconsistencies were. With the new report, the inconsistencies are still reported on. It's just at the end of the report where all your items are still being reported on. So it's not gone, it's not removed, it's just not duplicated from the back to the front. And it's very easy to find. I navigated through a report myself the other day, and it's really not it's just going to require you to page to the end, to the back end. One other additional change, one other change that I think you need to note would be that they've decided to remove negative impression. So based on hundreds of thousands of completions, they found that less than 0.05% of their reports being generated, respondents complete or flag the negative impression. So, so that was a decision that MHS made to say that there's actually, according to their data, no additional value generated from the negative impression. They have, however, I mean, positive impression remains something to be flagged and to be looked at. Omitted items yes, item 133 remains exactly the same. So everything is exactly the same, except for the fact that the negative impression is now not seen as an additional validity flag that you need to consider. With regards to the design, again, just a slightly different design, but everything remains exactly the same. Again, just not yes, trying to think, just no, yeah, I mean, the ranges are static and will remain there in that report as well. So you can't switch it on or off the, not that I know of anybody that switches it off in any way. So I don't think that to be a problem. Again, when you refer to the text, so everything here remains the same, slightly in simplification in terms of the static text, in terms of the introduction. None of the interpretive text changed, and again, none of the mappings changed, none of the structure changed, none of the items changed, nothing to be worried about here. And then you'll see that the balancing EI, again, everything available for the coach in these sections as well. So remember, I mentioned that in the client report, that little bottom piece were removed for the client to do interpretation themselves. It is still, however, very much available for the coach to take their clients through. And then we've got the item responses. Sorry, I just want to double check. Here's the item responses. So again, you'll still have all the item responses as with your old report, which I believe is really valuable. I don't think often you have psychometric assessments which actually provide you with these insights, and it is something that I personally often use, and it is still available, which I'm very glad about. But you also see that it is now spanned over 3 pages instead of, I think it was 2 pages, if I'm not mistaken, or it is 2 pages, and now it's going to be slightly longer, and it's not because there's more, it is only due to the font being used and white spaces being added. So it's still very easy to navigate through, and you'll see that right at the bottom, the 3rd page of the item responses in the new reports will have your positive impression items and also your inconsistency item pairs, which will be flagged for you to be able to pick up on it if need be. And then the follow-up questions, so those interview questions that some of you may use, some of you may not. We know that it's static, it's not based on that individual's results. Will also now be an additional downloadable PDF. So you will still have access to it, you may still use it there where you want to, but it's not going to be part of every single generation. It is something that you can download. The same would be with the action plan. Some of you make use of it, some of you don't, and the development commitment. Together with the coach's guide in terms of how to work through. all of those pages will be seen as separate downloadable PDFs. As I mentioned before, please don't view this as there's not going to be additional charge to this. It's not going to be something that is supposed to create any friction or tension. It is merely to have a more concise, smaller, easy to navigate report to be generated from the coach report. Any questions? Anything that I forgot to mention? I know I do have a number of colleagues online that might that also knows or is also familiar with some of the updates we can expect in the next few weeks.
No, Yanni, I think you've caught them all.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrea. Moving over to the leadership report. So leadership report, similar rhythm to what we've now had with the workplace report. Again, logo, as I already mentioned, not being available, design, a little bit cleaner, clearer text, a little bit bigger text being used. But there are some changes to the introduction page so that, sorry, I'm going to jump one section. Similar to the workplace report, we will not be able to switch on or off the percentiles ranges, those labels at the bottom, the 70, 90, 100, 101. We will not be able to switch off the actual percentile that this candidate received. But some of you, sorry, I'm just jumping for a second, some of you made use of switching off the bar as to what the norm is for leadership results to come out of. That little yellow bar that you have there to compare your leader, your candidate with, that bar will still be something that can be switched on or off. Again, I would not know, apologies for the layout of the slide now, but I would not know why one would want to switch it off. You pay for knowing how this candidate compares to other leaders in the sample, but just so that you know, it is something that can still be switched on or off. The rest of the again, the design, the interpretive text, all remains exactly the same. The executive summary, no changes that you can expect here. If I go through to the leadership potential page, again, design changes and a little bit of simplification, but none that you would need to be concerned about. So again, labels will always be on, a little bit of simplification in terms of your static text, but no changes to the interpretive text that you need to be concerned about. Again, just referring to your and not names to be used. So again, we're not going to be referring to Yanni, your results. It's going to be your results, just to take note of as well. And then the balancing section is the same with the workplace report, will be removed from your candidate report, but not your coach's report. So that bottom section on the left-hand side, you'll see at the bottom of the old report, which is your left-hand report, will not be available for the candidate report, but it will be available for the coach to assist their process and facilitation with the client as well. No changes to the interpretation of well-being, etc. Very similar design to what we've already gone through. And then again, same to what we've just mentioned. All the additional pages will be made available to you as separate downloadable PDFs. So it's not going to be generated with each of your report generations. And then over to coach's report. Exactly the same as what we've just gone through. So note the same changes as we've just gone through. Positive impression remains, negative impression falls away, omitted items will still be something that is reported on, with you being able to find which, so there will be 3 messages that can be accessed, both in your leadership report and your workplace report. It's either going to refer to no items were omitted, or you'll be able to say, yes, some items were omitted but the scale can still be scored. Then you've got a text that refers to that there were too many items omitted for a specific scale to not be scored. I think those were the only 3 messages that you may get from if there are too many omitted items. It will state this, and you will also be able to view it on this summary page as to which of the subscales or scales are not able to be scored due to the omitted items that that the candidate has done or gone through. Other than that, as I mentioned, negative impression being removed, no changes to the interpretive text, labels always on. And then, as I said, leadership potential report, very similar to the client report. And slight simplification on the text being used, but no changes to how it's being interpreted. And then all your item responses are still available, and it's just slightly longer, a little bit more spaced out, easier to navigate through with positive impression and your inconsistency pairs right at the end. There again, all the additional pages. And lastly, I know that I do have a number of people that are waiting just to hear about the score data set. So often we have clients making use of the EQI in its current format, in its PDF format that is being generated. But we also have quite a number of clients who makes use of the EQI through accessing this, the extract or the score data set as what it is referred to be. No changes to the integrity of the extract in terms of the fact that what it has always been reported will still be reported. Slight changes in the format, meaning that the old or the current versions got 1 CBS file with 3 tabs, and the new version, supposedly, I've not seen this yet myself, will have 2 CSV files, each with their own tab, so 1 tab in each of them. So same format, same type of scores being reported on, all the item responses still will be available as in the old one. It is all the demographics will still be available. It is just slightly different in the way that it is structured in well, the CSV file being either 1 or now being sent through as 2. So it's still available. And to be just mentioning this to the clients as well, this is unique to us as JVR and in South Africa. For us to know that this is really important for us, important for our consultants out there making use of the scores in their own interpretation, in their own interpretive or integrated reports, but also for those who want to do their own research, being able to actually access the data in this format is really valuable. It is something that we, to some extent, I want to say, fight for every year to ensure that we keep the right to be able to provide our clients with this without additional fees to be charged. Often we have other suppliers allowing access to data, but they do have a fee that is associated or with this data set provided, you know, for clients to access, which we really try our best to not allow for as far as we can, and for our clients to access this as part of the report generation process using the assessment. On that note, that is pretty much the updates. I think you all would have seen that it's minimal. Minimal in a sense of I don't foresee anybody to be completely unhappy. I think the fact that there's improved security and data risk controls associated with these changes, there is updated norms. Keys mentioned this morning. Keys, the sample of the 2023 or the most recent EQ norm consists of
16,500. I did put a very short summary in the chat for those who want to see. But yes, there's a new norm representative of our new working adult population, but practically we don't see big changes in the report. So you shouldn't have a whole new way of interpreting any report.
Thank you so much. So I believe with additional norms, with new languages, with updated security and less risk and alignment with GDPR compliance and POPI, I do believe, I mean, it's always been aligned and still is, but I just think it is even more so. It is to the most rigorous standards that is available out there. So I think only improvements, but I would really appreciate feedback from our clients. Any questions, concerns, it helps us again with our planning and with how we communicate, what we need to communicate, and how we can support you in the use of the EQI as well. Any questions?
I think from my side, thank you very much, Jani and team. I mean, the norms, the new norms, that is just the right thing to do. So thank you for the very hard work with that in that regard. MHS is very aware of the requirements in South Africa, and they know that these additional, very strict requirements sits well with all of us in South Africa. So well done, and we look forward to being able to use the new reports. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you. Wonderful. But that does then bring us to a close.
There is a question around the 360, just in the comment section.
Sorry, I just want to double check. So a little bit of so this is also maybe worth mentioning. If you are used to using or accessing the EQI through JVR Online, you would know that we don't have access to the EQ360 on JVR Online at the moment. If you make use of the EQI 360, it would be something that you make use of through TAP. What will be interesting for a little bit, for some time, will be that TAP, which is MHS's platform, will host the old reports, which is the ones we're currently making use of, for a little bit longer prior to them moving over to the new report, which we presented today. So we as JVR, through JVR Online, will actually access the new reports prior to MHS hosting it on their own platform. In saying so, that then results in the EQ360 not seeing any changes immediately. So the reports on TAP will remain exactly the same as what they are today, and there will not be changes made to them immediately. That will only follow after JVR Online has onboarded the changes and that the whole process has run smoothly. So it sounds weird that we're to some extent going to access the changes before MHS will do it themselves, but it is the way it is. So don't expect any changes to the EQ360. This will only be reflected in the workplace and the leadership report as you access it through JVR Online. The higher ed report and the 360 through TAP will remain exactly the same. EQ group
Thank you
reports
very much.
also won't change immediately. Fantastic. Thank you, Rizwan. We at some point in time changed a graph on, it was a few years ago, a graph from one color to another color, and it was only a graph. It didn't have any changes to the content. And we had so many people coming back to us that time, during that specific change, saying, please change it back, please change it back. We enjoy the previous graph even more. So the changes, even though we do see it as minimal and not major due to the fact that everything, all the integrity of the assessment and the measurement remains exactly the same, we are expecting clients to come back to us to say that I really preferred this way and I enjoyed it in another way. So feel free to do so. It's really important for us to gather that information so that we can again communicate that through to MHS. The idea is definitely not to force everything on you. The idea is really to collaboratively work towards a product that you guys enjoy as much as you've been, but also improving on it going forward. Okay. Wonderful. I think that is then, let's call it a day. I think the next open dialogues will be communicated to you as to the topic. It's definitely going to be, we've also signed CPDs, possibly, we're still waiting for approval, but it's possible CPDs to these sessions. So we will communicate that through to you as well. It will then require a little bit of a review at the end of it, meaning that you just make sure that there's learning that took place. But that will be communicated to you. This specific session, I don't believe will have CPDs assigned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.